Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. We made it to the end of the week. We are in the weekend. We've got a lot of college football to get through today. I will be streaming the Huskies Trojans game later this afternoon, but the main event is tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, we are 25 hours away from kickoff in Baltimore. The Seattle Seahawks going on the road and playing an early morning game against the Baltimore Ravens. And I'll tell you, it's a great opportunity to get a lot of people in your corner as we turn into the second half of the season. If the Seattle Seahawks can find a way to beat the Baltimore Ravens on the road with the way that Ravens team has been playing lately, they're going to have a lot of believers. They're going to have a lot of puff piece articles written about them. They're going to have a lot of the talking heads talking about how this Seahawks team is a Super Bowl contender now. We're going to hear all the good stuff for the next week. And I'll tell you, they deserve it. If they can find a way to win this game, if they can go into Baltimore and beat this Ravens team, they deserve all the positive things that are going to be said about them. This Ravens team is 6-2, and both their losses kind of feel like mistakes, right? They had that really weird loss to the Steelers where their receiver stopped catching the ball in the fourth quarter, and Lamar had two fourth quarter turnovers, and they had that loss to the Colts in overtime. They both kind of felt weird, like weird aberrations that you wouldn't expect to happen very often. So it feels like they're better than their record even. Maybe they are, and they have a good record. This is a team that recently blew out the Detroit Lions, and nobody else in the NFL has come even close to doing that. This is a very well balanced team with only a few minor issues on both sides of the ball. There is so much to like about the way this Ravens team has started the season, and given the fact that they are mostly healthy going into this game, you're getting them at pretty near their best. So, bottom line is, it's not going to be easy. But if you can find a way to do it, then you deserve the label that a lot of people are going to put on you. And the label is going to be Super Bowl contender. I don't feel like we're there yet. I feel like a lot of people are still expecting the Niners to win this division, still expecting the Seahawks to be good, but not great. They look at a game like last week and they say, oh, the Browns are pretty good, but they're not great. You didn't beat a great team last week. They're pretty good. They have flaws. They have some great parts of them, some great elements to that team, but you don't have a really impressive win yet. You beat Detroit in overtime. Okay, that was pretty good. But on the whole, you're just not quite at the level where we take you seriously as a Super Bowl contender. That goes away if you can win this one. So what's it going to take to get it done? Well, I'll tell you, like I just said, this team is very, very well balanced. On offense, Lamar Jackson's having the best season of his career outside of the MVP season. He's in this new offense and he's running it quite well. He's still not the best passer in the league or anything like that, but he has improved and he's utilizing this more pro style offense, a departure from the Greg Roman offense of before, and he's producing great numbers, great stats, great performances, and it seems like the Ravens pushed the right button on that one. They've got a deadly rushing. I mean, their rushing attack is always going to be deadly. When you have Lamar Jackson, it gives opposing defenses, linebackers, so much to think about that it's much easier to run the ball. So you've got Justice Hill, you've got Gus Edwards. They've got a nice little rushing attack in there. They've got one of the best tight ends in the game, who I'm sure they're going to exploit heavily in this game because of our secondary playing so well lately. I'm sure you're going to see a lot of targets to Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends out there. And this might be one of those games where you really see our linebackers get tested in coverage. They've held up pretty well so far, but this is a unique challenge. This is a different beast. And it wouldn't shock me if Mark Andrews did damage to our linebackers in coverage in a way that hasn't been done yet this year. You've got decent receivers. Obviously, it's the weakness of this team. You've got Odell, who really hasn't been playing that well so far this year. You've got Zay Flowers. He's been nice. He's been pretty good. A lot of drops, but good player. You've got Rashad Bateman, who hasn't totally panned out yet, but he's a pretty decent enough. It's a wide receiver room that is deep, but it's not necessarily loaded with any kind of superstar presence. They don't have a killer. They were trying to get one this offseason when they brought in a guy like Odell, and so far it hasn't worked out. So it's good enough for them to do what they need to do. You've got a good offensive line, although that is the one area on this team where maybe you can find some weaknesses. You've got Ronnie Staley, a great left tackle. You've got Linderbaum, a great center. But they're playing their backup right tackle, and they're playing their a very mediocre left guard. So I don't know exactly which right tackle they're going to play. It's going to be either Falele or Patrick. I can't remember the guy's last name, but either guy is obviously going to be a big downgrade from Morgan Moses. So I'm looking at our defensive front to find a way to make the game about that. Because if you make this game about Lamar Jackson, he's probably going to beat you up. If you make this game about their rushing attack, he's probably going to beat you up. Or Mark Andrews, even. Make the game about their offensive line, which doesn't have a superstar presence on it. It has a collection of good players that is a little bit weakened right now because of no Morgan Moses. And find a way to get some pressure on the inside and the outside on Lamar Jackson. Because we know what he can do. We saw it 4 years ago when Baltimore came to Seattle and Lamar basically ripped the MVP conversation away from Russell Wilson. We saw that 4 years ago, and we got a pretty good taste of what he's capable of doing. I don't know if he can do stuff like that anymore. That was a lot of injuries ago. For players like Lamar Jackson do not age super well, so maybe he's not quite at that level anymore, but he's found new ways to get it done. He's, like I said, improved as a passer. And I do think that our secondary matches up well with their receivers. You've got Witherspoon on Flowers in the slot, probably a lot in this game. I think Witherspoon's up to it, rookie on rookie violence. You've got Woolen on the outside, maybe a little of Odell, maybe a little bit of Rashad Bateman. I think Woolen's up to that task. And then you've got Trey Brown defending the other guy. He gives up maybe a little bit in size, but he's proven size is not that big of a concern for him. He's capable of making plays and getting it done at that outside cornerback position, even at his suboptimal size. So I'm looking to see a lot of Mark Andrews and a lot of running the ball, and I'm looking to see Lamar take off with it a lot because I do think we can handle that receiver core. So you got to be on point here. There's not much I can say in terms of like strategy. There's not much I can say in terms of let's do this specific thing. You just have to do what you do extremely well, or else it's not going to work. I will say, if you look at some of the advanced metrics, the Seahawks have been pretty consistent this year with blitzing about a league average amount. This might be the game to go crazy with the blitzes. If there's anything that can maybe make Lamar Jackson make mistakes, turn the ball over, and stymie him, it might be sending the house at him. There was a game a couple years ago, and I know this is a couple years ago. Lamar's a better passer now, but the Miami Dolphins just decided they were going to blitz him like crazy, and it worked pretty well. So if the Seahawks can maybe do something like that, just throw some nutty blitzes at Lamar consistently, send 6, 7, maybe even 8 guys, maybe there's something there. That's about the only thing I can think of, though, because bottom line is it's just a good offense. It's a good, deep, varied offense. And this defense has shown over the past several weeks they are up to the challenge. They played extraordinarily well for many, many weeks now. It's one of the best defenses in the league, but this is a new challenge. And for the last couple weeks in a row, the Seahawks have had a little bit of a problem with mobile quarterbacks. Both P.J. Walker and Dobbs, they didn't run all over us, but they had decent success on us. So I need to see what we can do with Lamar Jackson, who is probably the best of those more dual threat quarterbacks. Or at the very least, he's the most dangerous one because his dual threat is truly on an even plane with itself. It's not like, oh, he's a passer who can run a little bit. No, he can run just as much as he passes. So that's the only thing I can really think of, guys. Secondary needs to play well. They match up well with these guys. Just go out there and prove it. And then send some nutty blitzes at Lamar Jackson and see if he can beat it. Because there's some reason to believe he struggles in that situation. All right, so that's the Ravens offense. It's not even the best part of this Ravens team, but it's good. The best part of their team is probably their defense, where they've got a stacked secondary just like the Seahawks. If you were to rank the best secondaries in the league, I think the Ravens and Seahawks would both rank very highly. They are so good back there, Marcus Williams has nothing to do. Marcus Williams is just kind of the third safety waiting for his handful of snaps a game. You've got Geno Stone, who's going to make the All-Pro team if he keeps this up. You've got Kyle Hamilton, who's playing really well. He's proven that he was worthy of that draft's first round pick a couple of years ago. You've got some good cornerbacks. They're getting some really good stuff out of Stevens as their number one corner so far this year. He's kind of come out of nowhere. They've still got Marlon Humphrey. It is a very good secondary. And right away, it kind of feels like the way that Geno's been turning the ball over, that's where this game can get away from us. Because Geno Stone has shown he knows how to bait opposing quarterbacks. He's got 5 interceptions in 8 games. And this is a guy who was not really considered to be a high-profile player before this season, but he's really figured out how to bait opposing quarterbacks. This Ravens team is very good at forcing turnovers with their secondary. They're very good at getting pressure with their front and getting sacks. So you add it all up, and that's how the game gets away from you. So with the way Geno has been a little bit turnover happy over the last 3 games, that's where this gets a little bit worrisome. You need him to make the right decisions, or else this Ravens defense will punish you pretty much every time. So that's going to be right at the top of the priority list. Geno just needs to play as good as he played against the Detroit Lions in week 2. That was the one game he played this year where he looked elite. He looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That's what it's going to take to put up enough points to beat this Ravens team, because I don't believe the defense is going to be able to single-handedly win this one. They got great linebackers as well. Maybe some of the best linebackers in the league through the first 8 weeks. You've got on the outsides, you've got Owe, and you've got Clowney, and you've got Kyle Van Noy rotating in. All 3 of those guys have been very effective so far this year. Owe, in particular, has been great for them. And he was injured a little bit this week, but he looks like he's ready to go. We know about Clowney. We know what he can do. We know what he can't do also, but overall, Clowney, very good player. In some ways, I still miss him. And he's proving that you put him in the right situations and you ask the right things of him, he can be a very effective player for you. And of course, they've got that Roquan Smith-Patrick Queen 1-2 combo in the middle that is... they've come together beautifully. They have come together absolutely beautifully. And if you take those 4 guys, remove Van Noy from the equation, and you just look at those 4 guys, it might be the best linebackers in the NFL through the first 8 games. I don't know if they would be over the course of a full season. But it does seem like there's not a lot you can do on this team. Maybe you can dent their defensive line a little bit. You look at that defensive line in Baltimore and you might say, well, they've got Pierce, Michael Pierce, he's good. But their other 2 spots on that defensive line when they're in that 3-4, not great. Nothing over the top special. Maybe you can get a little bit of push in the middle. We are getting our guards back this game. Should be Phil Haynes, although that's going to be a game time decision. Damian Lewis, we need you, man. This is a contract year. Turn it on. Turn it on, dude. If you want to get paid, you got to do something to earn it. This is a great game to earn it in. Evan Brown, maybe that's the one area where we can actually get something going here. Run the ball. And it's something I've talked about this week just in general. And I'm not saying I want to commit to it permanently, but in this game against Baltimore, you might need to just balance out the offense, run the ball a lot, understand that their secondary is too good for you to pick apart in the passing attack, and that you may need to lean a little bit more on that rushing attack. And look, you're going to need the offensive line to cooperate, but I think that's probably the right thing to do here. Just balance out the rushing attack. I don't think the weather is going to be a big factor in this game. I don't get the sense that Baltimore is some impossible place to win in, although it's obviously very hard. So if you do things the right way, this is a very winnable game. I do believe that. This is a game that you can win if you do things the right way. But, I sit here and I say that, but you're really going to have to be on top of everything because this Ravens team is not going to make silly mistakes to hand it to you. Not typically anyway. I mean, I guess in some way you could say they've done that at least once already this year against the Steelers, but generally speaking, you're not going to see that kind of stuff from this squad. Special teams, I mean, the Ravens are coached by a former special teams coach, so you know he's got that stuff on lockdown. So you're not going to beat him on special teams, probably. They got one of the best kickers of all time. They take care of their business on that end. So it's hard to find the weaknesses. You can attack their lines a little bit, I think. I don't think their line play is great right now. Because in the case of the offensive line, because of injuries. But other than that, you just need to do things very, very well. You just need to do what you do at a high level and hope that it's enough. So I'd say run the ball and blitz. I'd say a lot of Charbonnet in this game. I might like him even more than Walker, so you can really go after that defensive line and blitz Lamar Jackson like crazy and see if you can get the results that the Dolphins got a couple years ago when they tried that. Because when they did it, I think it actually worked extraordinarily well. All right, so with all that being said, I gotta say, I'm not quite there yet. I think this Ravens team is a little too good, a little too balanced, a little too stacked. I'm gonna go with something like 20-16 Ravens. I think it's gonna be close. I think we're gonna have a chance. We might even have the ball with 2 minutes left, down 4 points, and get the opportunity to drive down and go score, and either it happens or it doesn't happen. So if we can find ourselves in that opportunity, I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm not going to be upset even if it doesn't work out. Because at the end of the day, you can prove yourself in this game without necessarily winning it. If you hang tough, if you go blow for blow, if you hang around, if you have a chance to win in the fourth quarter, and if we come away from this game feeling like we were just one play away or we were 2 plays away from winning that game, I'm going to take something out of that. I'm going to take something out of that, and I'm going to say if we play that well the rest of the season, we're going to win most of our games. So it's just going to be one of those weeks where I get it. It's a lot to ask. This Ravens team is maybe peaking right now, honestly. It was just a couple weeks ago they destroyed the Lions. But I recognize that when this Seahawks team has over the last month been almost as impressive, maybe just as much so. You're looking at maybe the two best defenses over the last month plus. So I mean, who's going to step forward and prove it a little bit more? It really wouldn't take that much. That's why I say this will be a close game and it will come down to the last couple minutes. But I think that the Ravens at home, you gotta give them a little bit of sugar in that situation. So I'll just leave it at that, and we'll see what happens tomorrow morning. But win, lose, or draw, I will be on here to talk about it afterwards, and we'll see which way it goes. But go Hawks! See you guys tomorrow, and let's get this.